Yeah, she thought the grass was greener on the other side. She was dealing with you, thinking, oh, my boyfriend could never. Oh, you're so great. She's having all this extra fun time in the bedroom with you that she wouldn't have with her boyfriend. And she was dumb enough to dump him and realized, I messed up. She effed around and found out.
Story: The Other Side of the Coin. Anonymous. Hi, I would like to share my story with you on how I was the guy that the girl cheated on her man with. This might be a long story. My apologies for that. I've been debating whether or not I should send you my story since I am a reserved person in general, but I figured this would be more like an educational video for my fellow men out there and hopefully open their eyes to female nature and how crazy it can get. I am currently 20 years old, and this all happened in a span of the last 2 years. When I met this woman, I was 18 years old, and she was 22. She had this swagger to her that I always found attractive in any woman, you know, that sexy vibe. The soft but playful voice and an amazing body, that was her. The complete package. So it all started after a college class of mine. I had some free time, and I would always hang around the student lounge with my friends. By this point, I already had developed the reputation of being a womanizer in the college campus, which was very small, which only consisted of me being with a couple of girls who got salty with me because I never wanted a relationship with them. This will play a factor in the story. Back to the story, every time I was at the student lounge, she, let's call her Claire, would always be there waiting for her boyfriend to get out of his class. So in the meantime, she would always chit chat with some people in the student lounge. Every single day that passed, I told my best friend, I'm telling you, one day I'm going to tap that. All he did was give me a smile and say, who knows, but little did he know. One day I finished my class early and went straight to the student lounge. And guess who was there? Claire. I thought to myself that this was the time for me to strike up a conversation, which I did, and it all played out smoothly. We would both talk about a lot of things, and in some instances, some flirting actually came along, which left me wondering if she was really flirting with me or was she only a playful girl. Well, the next day was the same, but this time my friend was with me, and he saw it all unfold. All the flirty remarks we would make to each other, and even some sexual inside jokes after that. I was certain that she was flirting with me, but I never rushed, neither jumped to a conclusion. The semester ends, and now I'm chilling in my room enjoying my summer vacation, and I see one peculiar notification pop up. It was Claire. She somehow found my Instagram and followed me. I took a look at her profile, and she was one of those look at my BF type, with his name in her bio and a lot of pictures of them together, even in her profile picture. I didn't think too much of it. I simply followed back and went on with my day. Some time passes, and I see that she posted something that piqued my interest, so I replied to her story. The conversation was nothing out of the ordinary, but in the end, I gave her my number, and she texted me right away. Some time passes by, and then I receive a picture from her. It was a meme that had one of our sexual inside jokes in it, and the conversation went off. I was always playful in my messages, never too clingy nor needy, just playing my cards right until one night it all shifted out of control. The conversation steered its way into a sexual topic, talking about all kinds of stuff. Whatever you can think of, we talked about it. And then I pulled the trigger. I asked her this simple yet deadly question: did you ever flirt with me? In all honesty, I really didn't know what was going to happen, but I figured she'd just cuss me out or block me because she had a boyfriend. But to my surprise, she replies with, I would be lying if I told you I wasn't. What about you? From there on out, I knew my foot was in the door. We would talk for days after that confession, and then one night it all got really sexual. She was really curious about the things that I would do in a sexual settings, and since I am a writer in my free time, I decided to take advantage of that and literally tell her a full-blown erotica about my experiences and things I did. This got her very heated and in the mood. Let's just say I received some interesting pictures and videos that night. This would continue for the next month until college started back up again. We would talk about how the tension between us would be insane and that she would wear a sundress just to see me suffer, stuff like that. So, the day actually came. We would see each other face to face after all of those messages, and boy did she deliver, wearing a tight dress just for me, not for her boyfriend. She even sent me pictures early in the morning just to make sure I knew that she wasn't the type to say stuff and not back it up. I was like that as well. Fast forward 2 weeks into that college semester, and we had the opportunity to go to this abandoned place, which all the college kids knew about, and used that place for everything. We didn't go there alone, of course, but we went there with a couple of friends. She made sure to sit next to me while wearing some yoga pants just to mess with me. I warned her that if she sat next to me, I wasn't going to behave. She still sat next to me, despite my warning. During the car ride, we would occasionally touch each other's thigh until we hit a really hard road bump, and I placed my hand right on her ass. She was surprised, but had this devilish look to her face. I knew it was game on. She started moving around, basically stimulating herself with my hand under her still, making sure I felt it. Nobody in the car suspected a damn thing. We arrived at our destination, and everybody went their separate ways, but of course I was with Claire, alone, basically in the woods while the others had some fun. We would shoot the shit a little, but just talking, but we both knew something was going to happen. And me did something happen. All right, we went into an abandoned shed and just started making out like crazy. Some fingers were introduced, if you know what I mean. Everything got super heated to the point where we said to hell with it. And we were going to smash, but I forgot to bring my condom. So I settled for a blowjob, which she warned me that she has never done something like this before and that she only gives head to her boyfriend only. But that all changed in that shed. Let's just say I had a fun time. After that encounter, we were walking to our friend's car, and she told me, "What did we just do?" All I did was reply to her, "You regret it?" She gave me a smile and said, "Not one bit." I knew this was trouble. After that, we would text on the regular. We even made some secret code to let me know if it was safe for me to text her while she was with her boyfriend. Yes, they are that evil. In the meantime, I was all giddy that I got a blowjob from the hottest girl in the campus, but I always kept it to myself, never told anyone, and no one knows to this day. After texting some time, we would talk about how crazy it would have been if we went the full mile. More pictures and videos from her were sent to me. It was all madnesses. Some time passes by, and we have the opportunity to go to the same place again with the same group of people. She made up this elaborate lie that she was going to arrive to college late because her grandma was sick, which she was. Her boyfriend ate it all up. We arrive at the place, and this time alcohol is involved. We all drink a lot of liquor, and it was crazy the stuff that happened. After drinking, I decided to excuse myself and take a walk to sober up. Claire went right behind me. We went to the same place. I didn't forget my condoms, and under the effects of alcohol, we had sex in the abandoned shed, in which I forgot to mention was a very popular place to hike in certain days. So, some people would pass by while we were smashing. It was madness. After the whole ordeal, we would text again, non-stop, and this time, we found a place nearby to have our fun. All we had to do was sneak out the campus while nobody noticing us, and up to Pound Town we went. Let's just say she was a freak. She was super into the whole dom stuff, which I am super into as well. Time went on, and our encounters just got more and more wild. She would confess to me that under no circumstance she would never let her boyfriend do these things to her because he was a gentle guy and really nice. Just goes to show you all. But something weird started to happen. As time went on, she would begin to tell me how she never had this much fun with her boyfriend and how much of a loser he was, and even would begin to express disgust about him being too nice. And she even bragged about how she stopped having sex with him altogether. They would do it on a weekly basis, which kind of shocked me at first, but then I brushed it off. Winter break comes along and more of the same stuff, sexting and telling me about how she actually had sex with her boyfriend, but she ended moaning my name. Now that was a red flag that I didn't notice. I even thought that it was hot. But then came the next semester, and boy did we mess around that semester. We were like bunnies. But something began to bother me. She was catching feelings for me, to the point where she would actually get mad at me for being with other women. I never cared. I put her in her place, letting her know she has no say in what I do or who I am with. After all, she still had her boyfriend. This is when it hit her hard that I wasn't into her. She was just one of my other casual sex types of girls. But she accepted to be one of my other casual sex girls. But she was really into me, to the point that she broke up with her boyfriend, someone who was willing to spend his life with her and give her everything. Poor fella. I warned her that breaking up with her boyfriend was not change our status. It will still be the same, and I will still be with other girls. She kept on saying on how she broke up with him because he was boring, not a man and a softie, even though he was older. Time went on, and it would eventually start to feel like our relationship on her end, but not mine. It felt weird and creepy, so I decided to let her know what I thought. Let me tell you, I was brutally honest with her. I had no regards for her feelings. After all, she was a grown-ass woman. But she cried and wept, saying, "But what if I changed for you? Would you look at me differently?" All I did was put my hand on her shoulder and say, "Never." This sent her in a hysteria of blowing up my phone with long voice messages, up to 8-10 minutes of her just crying. I would only reply, "When you're done crying, let me know." I will admit that it was a bit too cold on my end, but I had to do it. I've been manipulated and lied before. Some tears were not going to make me budge, especially from a girl like her. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Of course, it all ended in bad terms. She was a complete psycho at one point, and I ended blocking her. Almost a year later, she contacted me through another phone, and we made amends. Of course, she was still down to F with me while having another boyfriend. I told her it was best we part ways, and I've never heard from that crazy bish again. This is my story, I am just saying. Bishes ain't shish. Stay safe, brothers. Let's see another story. 6 months later, divorcing my husband was a huge mistake. This one is long, but worth it for everyone to read. If I could give anyone a piece of advice for divorce, it would be to not do it under normal circumstances. If your spouse is beating you or threatening you or your children, then of course get out and fast. In my case, there was no abuse. We were together for 8 years. That was mostly good, and we have 4 kids. Right around 5 years, I got a promotion at work, and I got it in my head that my ex-husband was dragging me down, or at least holding me back from more success and a better life. We never had a lot of money, but with my promotion, I was now making more than he was. I started working longer hours, and at the same time, his hours were cut, so he was at home more. I really began to resent him because he was home and because he got to spend time with our kids. Most nights when I got home, they were already getting ready for bed, if not already sleeping. After a few months of my new job, it was clear to me that things were not going well at home without me there. Some nights the dishes weren't done when I got home, or the kids hadn't eaten, or whatever else I could think of to be mad at him about. It really didn't matter. He kept saying that he would try harder, but that it was hard being home all the time. That always made me really mad. For the next couple years, things kept getting worse. My hours weren't any shorter, and his were on and off full time. There was no convenient time for him to be working full time because of my hours, but we also needed the money. Whenever he would tell me that he could get extra hours, I would always complain. And the less hours he worked, the more I complained that he wasn't bringing in enough money. Whenever he brought up the contradiction, I would tell him that he needed to figure it out. I knew that it would bother him, so I started saying that a lot and for everything that I could. I really started to resent him, and I pulled away from him. I knew that it was hurting him, but I didn't care. If he didn't want to be hurt, then he would at least try to make me happy. I used that same thing to justify when I started to talk to another guy at work. I thought he was just a friend, but talking at work turned into texting at home and then pictures and videos and then trying to sneak some alone time with him. I knew that it was wrong, but it made me feel so alive, and my husband had not made me feel like that in years. I was tired of being unhappy, and I was doing this for me. The worst was the night that I came home at a reasonable time and found that he had cleaned the whole house, cooked the whole family dinner, and picked out a movie for all of us to watch together. This would have made me swoon a couple years earlier, but that night I couldn't even look at him, and I pretended to be sick. I spent the rest of the night in bed while he waited on me and checked on me and even made me different food and brought it to me in bed. It made me feel terrible, and then it made me angry that he made me feel that way. And by the end of the night, I was texting with the other guy. Over the next month or two from that night, it did not matter what he did. He was wrong just for breathing most days. He would get so upset with how I was treating him, and I would just wait and egg him on into losing it because I knew it would happen eventually. After most of the fights we had, he would apologize for whatever I told him. He did wrong if there even was something, but I never did. I would usually find a way to make him feel even worse. I knew that I was right because he was wrong, and that was all that mattered to me. I even pretended that I didn't care when he found out about my relationship with the guy from work. It really destroyed me inside to see him holding back tears, but I wasn't going to let him see that. He was at his weakest, and that was when I chose to tell him that I wanted a divorce. I could almost hear his heart shattering inside his chest. He talked and fought and said that we could work through it together. I really wasn't interested in fixing our marriage, but I mostly ended things with the other guy, but only because I knew I could get it back if I wanted it. I could see that he was trying, and occasionally I would let him know, but for the most part, I kept being a huge bitch to him for any and all reasons that I could think of. I'm not sure how much more the man could have done to make me happy, besides finding a job that paid enough for me to not have to work at all. He said that he was looking, but looking and finding are two different things. It was around this time that I discovered this group and a few others. I started posting things about him, from my perspective only, and I got so much positive feedback for how I was feeling that I knew I was right. The more I posted, the more validation that I got. It wasn't just me who knew that XH wasn't worth keeping around. I had the whole internet telling me how terrible he is. I started saying awful things to him and even outright ignoring him. I was so confident with mine and everyone else's opinion that I contacted a lawyer and within a couple weeks had filed for divorce. I continued to use this site and a couple others to validate my feelings and for encouragement to go through with it. And finally, it was done. It went pretty smoothly. Ex-husband didn't ask for much besides to not get divorced and to try to work it all out. I didn't care about that though. He was broken, but I was free. I could do whatever I wanted without having to feel any guilt or answer to anybody. It was an amazing feeling of freedom. It didn't last long though. In the first month after he moved out, I missed garbage day 3 times. There was also rarely a single clean dish, and the laundry sat in piles so long that I had to start doing the sniff test to see if it could be worn again. I also never saw my kids more miserable. My oldest had seen some of the messages from the other guy months earlier, and she knew that X still wanted to try to work it out. It didn't take her long to stop talking to me at all, except to say that she wanted to go to X's house. The others all told me that they wanted to live with X too. I did my best to try to make them happy, but I ended up just buying them toys all the time, and the happiness only lasted minutes. I also was having a lot of trouble with work. Being alone, I couldn't work all those extra hours that I was expected to. I finally gave in and started calling X to watch the kids. He would always come over as soon as he could, and he always asked me if I needed anything. When I would get home, I would find clean dishes and laundry and even dinner sometimes. He would never say too much after I got home. He would just say to call him if I needed anything and leave. One night he took out the garbage and brought it to the curb because it was garbage night, and I forgot again. He always looked so sad when it was time to go. Finally, after a couple months, my friends convinced me to go out on a date. It was for dinner and a movie, and I was excited and hopeful. But at dinner, I started getting a feeling of overwhelming guilt. It got so bad that I ended up not even going to the movie. A week and about a million tears later, I were on a therapist's couch. I told her everything that had happened, starting with the promotion that I got at work. She did not agree with me or with any of the encouragement to divorce that I got. I ended up in her office 2 and sometimes 3 times a week, and the more that I talked to prove that I was right, the more that I started to see how wrong I was. It was truly heartbreaking. I don't know if I cried as much in my whole life as I did in the first month in her office. After about $2,000 of therapy sessions, I learned that my ex-husband had his faults, but I figured out that mine were so much worse. I did so many awful things and said awful things that I wouldn't want to be with me, but he did. I still remember him asking me in the meeting with the lawyer to please not go through with it. I did go through with it though, and then later I bragged on here how great it felt. I was so wrong, and now I can see it. A couple of weeks ago, I went outside with him when he was leaving the house. I asked him about getting back together. When he looked at me, his eyes were full of tears and a couple went down his cheeks. He told me that he didn't know if he could. He said that the pain has been too much for too long, and that if we got back together, that I might just turn around and do it to him again. He said that he always thought that I would realize how much he loved me and stop up until I signed the divorce papers and let out a big over-exaggerated sigh of relief. He said that hurt him more than anything else, and that he doesn't know if he can ever trust me again. I don't blame him. I destroyed a man who, looking back, was a great husband. I deprived my kids of having a great father in the house with them, and I took his kids away from him. And me, the one who pushed for the divorce expecting happiness and a life of freedom, spend all my free time sitting at home or sitting on a therapist's couch. Please don't just take the advice of anyone on this site or any other about getting a divorce. If your marriage is bad, look at yourself first and see if you can make changes. This is advice for men and women. Getting divorced is not fun. Being divorced is not fun. And seeing your husband broken and your children never happy because of your actions is the most painful experience that I can imagine. I wish all of you well and hope that you will give your marriages a second chance. Let's see comments. 2OP. My ex-wife could have written this post, so I feel like I may have an idea how your soon-to-be ex-husband feels. A year after the divorce, my ex-wife came to visit the kids and begged for me to talk to her as I was no contact on any topic not about the kids. She lamented her cheating, her cruelty, her constant fault-finding, but mostly, she said she missed my friendship and could we please try again? Oh, how I longed to hear those words. I would have paid any price, made any promise, done anything to try again, but for the divorce. She was so happy hitting me over the head with it, and how happy she was going to be without me in her life. It broke me. My heart and my soul, my self-worth were tied up in our marriage, and she destroyed all of it. I couldn't possibly go back to her. I had escaped a prisoner of war camp, never to return. Dear OP, you are asking your ex-husband to return to a POW camp with only the weakest promise God the Commandant won't torture and cruelly abused him this time. It is too big of a risk for him to take. This sounds like some fantasy thought I have about my wife and her realization post-divorce that she made the wrong choice. I don't expect it to ever happen. And even if I somehow got her to read this, she'd just say, "That's nice, I won't ever feel the way I should about you again. Sorry." A couple weeks ago. Paragraph is me. She has told me numerous times that she thinks I'm a great husband, as do her friends, and a wonderful father. But we've grown apart, and she doesn't feel for me like that anymore, and won't again. She says there is no one else, now, and there is no motivation or reason to think otherwise, no fault state. Life isn't always greener, but you can't force someone to see that. I wouldn't take you back. It's hard to say, but my wife had a quick turnaround after 5 months of wanting divorce after some household catastrophe, and things were the best they've been in years. Then 2 months later got more distant and was back on divorce train. After thinking cohabitation might be possible, we're now realizing that we need to figure out how to afford 2 households and go on. I don't want it. I think she's having a midlife crisis after being a stay-at-home mom for a decade and then getting back into the workforce. None of what I think matters. She is not happy and blames me. Whatever childhood dreams she hasn't accomplished are because I've held her back, despite working multiple jobs so she could be a stay-at-home mom. Sometimes life serves up a sandwich and you either starve and die or take a bite. It leaves a bad taste, but eventually you get over it. I'm mid-chew right now, and if she signed the papers and came back at me, I'd tell her to enjoy her own sandwich. I'm full.
Look, I appreciate you telling the story from your side, your point of view. I'm not mad at it. Do I support, guys sleeping with women in relationships, whether it's marriage or boyfriend? No, I don't encourage that because honestly, man, especially if it's someone's wife, and in this case, that's not the case, but especially if it's someone's wife, dude, you're asking for it. I'm just going to put it out there. I think men love harder than women. Men work really hard to keep the woman that they think loves them happy. Working extra hours, buying gifts, fixing things around the house, doing a lot, right? And men do that because they love this woman. They love her. And a lot of times men get upset with guys, which they shouldn't. They should get mad at their girl. But some guys will be in a position to where they feel like, wow, I got played and somebody needs to suffer. Don't be that guy to get hit up because you slept with his wife or girlfriend. If you know she's got a husband or a boyfriend, dude, there's other women out here. There's single women. Don't contribute to her disgusting ways of lying and using someone, taking advantage of someone and sleeping with other people behind that person's back. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. I'll never stand for that. I'll never support that, ever. But it happens every day. Guys, it happens every day. So, listen, if you want to be that person and sleep with people's wives and girlfriends, do it at your own risk. You're gonna mess with the wrong one, and I'm telling you, that guy's gonna snap. Gonna snap. But guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Guys, if you want to send in a story, send it to truestorynation@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it on screen. That is truestorynation@gmail.com. I'm gonna catch you guys at the next one.